We now move to the type 5, right? The type 5 is the investigator, wise person, observer, thinker, private. Just a little summary of the five. Remember, they're the ones who like to analyze things. They like depth. They like details. They are like scientists, sometimes like to investigate things, and they're great observers. Okay, so as mentioned here, great observers. Fives want to make the world a much more enlightened place, so hence knowledge is important. Now, not all fives will say, I read a lot of books, but because they observe well, they can theorize, they can come up with their own thoughts because they also are good at keeping their own space. They are the biggest introverts, so they don't like to mix around too much with people. And because they have their own space, they can investigate and think about things over a lengthened period. Focus of attention is watching, understanding, seeking more knowledge, not just through books. Sometimes it's just through conversation or just watching things. It could be YouTube, it could be just gathering information from their minds and watching people. Unconscious childhood message is not okay to be too comfortable or incompetent. So sometimes when they do not know something, you may not hear from them. So in a classroom, fives could observe for a very long time and figure it out themselves. They may not ask many questions. They hate to sound stupid, so you'll never hear from them. But once they are equipped and they're ready, that's when you hear from them. So they are very measured and they're very careful when it comes to their image. They don't want to look slow, unaware, hence they would like to figure it out. Now, the problem with that, of course, is when you only want to figure it out by yourselves, you may not tend to mix around and gather knowledge with other people, get into a conversation, start to exchange information. They need to sometimes do it by themselves. But generally, very insightful people because they are not the sort to leave things and not be aware of what's happening in life, right? They really need to be aware. Some of the strengths: analytical, insightful, observant, perceptive, all these cool things about knowledge because they're very heady people. When overused, they can be quite detached because they like their own space. They hold back, they may not share, especially when they are lacking confidence. They can be overly independent. That means they do not seek other people's attention, do not seek other people's help. They are self-sufficient. They love to be independent and self-sufficient. They may underemphasize relationships, but not all fives are like that, right? They're social fives as well. But they like their company to be small, not too large, right? And sometimes they can be quite stubborn, hold on to certain things that they believe very strongly about. They may not be willing to let go some of their ideals and some of their thoughts. When a five is relaxed, they go to the confidence side of eight. This is when they start sharing. This is when they start teaching. This is when they want other people to benefit from what they know. And that's a confident eight, being in large groups, like scientists sharing their findings or a leader sharing the best way to handle things. When they are stressed up, they can sometimes go all over the place. Like sevens tend to do many things at the same time. They get bored very fast. So maybe when fives accumulate too much of information, they can get lost in their own knowledge, or they can get lost in the amount of data that they have accumulated, because sevens can be huge multitaskers. Okay, some ways to remember the five. Depth, trusting information and data. They're very deep, right? And they are not shallow people at all. They love their space and privacy. Feelings and emotions, they don't express much. Sometimes we call them the most unfeeling because they're very heady. So sometimes when they're very heady, it does not go down to the heart. So they may not be very heartful. Okay, not all again, but quite a lot of them do not use much of their heart. They use a lot of their head. Compartmentalization is a gift of the five. That means work is work, home is home. One problem does not have to influence another problem. So they can what we call dissociate. I can dissociate from some things which are challenging me and just focus on what works. So this ability to divide the mind into 5 or 6 or 7 and not let one box affect the next box. We call that compartmentalization, or the ability to dissociate from other different tasks that I'm dealing with. They don't like superficial small talk. That's right. Whatever kind of small talk we do has to add value. There has to be a reason. I won't just socialize for the sake of socializing. People can be overwhelming to fives. They are very analytical, self-sufficient. They can live on their own, function on their own very well because they're independent.